also has experience in this field. They worked together with Sarah and I to put together a really amazing survey, which we sent out through email and through some paper. They'll probably go into a little more detail about the logistics of that. But we got an overwhelming response, and which gave us a great amount of data, which they're going to go over tonight, which is mostly overall very positive. So we're so excited to share this information with you guys tonight. And I think they'll allow you to ask questions as you go. So if something comes up, and there's no dumb question, if you want to ask anything, they're actually, I think you guys are pretty fun. I was excited because I'm like, sometimes when you have presentations, you're like, so-and-so's coming in. But we got pizza. Oh, not like building it up. So I'm like, yeah.
So when you guys fall asleep, she built it up. Just know.
So just know this is not the end of, like, if you have some questions after the fact, like, or you want a printed out version of what we're going to show so you can look over again, like, that's available to you. So don't think that this is like your one and only chance to ask questions or give feedback. But knowing that they want to get of the presentation, and I want to give them enough time. But, oh, Emily?
I just wanted to say they brought us some awesome desserts,
Yes.
including cookies for people with different dietary requirements. So I think probably because this is going to last a little while, you can feel free to get up and get some cookies, but just look at the label on whatever package you're opening. So if you're like gluten-free, you try to eat the normal stuff first. Or sorry, no.
I was like, oh gosh.
You know what I mean.
So the labeling is in the ones without the labels have everything in them, all the nuts and milk. Then there's the vegan cowgirl, the flourless. And then these are, because we don't know the nut situation with these.
She was smiling.
These have no nuts, no milk, and no flour.
Perfect. And Sarah and I are going to try to watch for the 4, so because we really want the whole team to stay in and be able to see the presentation. So we're going to be hovering over here, but we're still here. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce Karen Hirsch. Board members. Are you here too now? Or
You too, yeah.
And who will be doing 2 checks?
Yeah.
Oh, and here's a clicker, Melissa, if you want.
Oh, I get the clicker. That's way too much control.
So this was the first time Red River's done a survey, right?
A comprehensive
Customer survey. So it was exciting for a multitude of reasons, for the board, for Angie and the staff, and hopefully you'll find it interesting and learn something from it.
Yeah, and clearly it's not January. We're aware. Sorry. We actually presented this to the board first, and so they were very keen on you guys getting a chance to see it. It just turned out that March happened to be the time when we could get in to see you. So one thing I do want to reiterate, although you guys are probably well aware of this, the mission was something that we kept in mind very clearly as we sort of thought about how to craft out a survey, because the whole thing is you have a mission with the intention that you're actually going to meet it, right? That's kind of the point. So the key here would be thinking about the things that are described in here, to entertain, to broaden horizons, to deepen appreciation. Those kinds of things were kind of key to how we constructed the actual survey. So we sort of broke the survey out into sections where we wanted people to sort of think about those particular things. So they thought about, hey, how does this make me feel? How do I talk about these movies when I'm done? How do I have conversations about them later? So we use this as sort of a platform to start us going forward. Has anybody here actually seen the survey? Oh, only one. Okay. So it might be super helpful at some point for you to get a copy of the survey, which Angie and Sarah can definitely get to you, because the questions are sort of broken out in such a way, like I said, that aligns with this, but also gives you an idea of sort of how people might have responded to it. I know some people beta tested it for us, so thank you to the folks that did that. So I do want to talk a little bit about survey response. So we had a list of, Sarah help me, was it 7,800, 8,000 people? I want to say 8,000.
It was about 8,000.
Yeah, about 8,000 people. The point here is you always want to make sure that you get a representative sample, which means if at any given time we were to reach into that pool of 8,000 and pull out a random bunch, how many would we need for it to be random enough and be representative enough that every single time we pull in to that pool, regardless of the mix of people we get, we're likely to get similar answers. So the answer was we actually needed somewhere around 970 to 990 responses. That was our minimum number. We actually ended up with almost 1150, which was great. That was way better than we actually expected, which meant that we could reduce our margin of error, which meant every single time you pull back to that pool, we're more likely to get very similar answers. So the randomness of this is sort of dissuaded by the fact that we could get more responses. Does that make sense to everybody? That's why it was so important for us to get a high number.
Yeah,
So
I mean, the bottom line is the results are solid.
yeah,
They're not
you
a
can trust them.
fluke. Yeah.
They're within 95% confidence. And for those of you who've never heard, p-values or confidence level, basically what this means is 95% of the time, the answers are pretty much on the money. So within a 3% margin of error. So it's actually super good. You usually don't get that in public surveys. Probably not surprising to you guys, more than half fell between the ages of 55 and 74. Over 71% of all the respondents were female. Which actually, in thinking about it and reflecting on it, wasn't that surprising, considering it may be the female in the household who might be answering on behalf of the whole household. So actually that made a little bit more sense as we talked it out with the board. 90% were white, 8% preferred not to answer their race or ethnicity, but almost a third had an annual household income of 100 grand or more, which actually is kind of surprising. 85% have no children at home, which again is not surprising when you look at your age range. Right? And then almost half of those who responded, I think it was actually 48%, have been attending here for 10 years or more. So they're like your solid, tried and true, ride or die kind of people, right? They're going to be here no matter what. And then 40% claim to attend a film or event once a month or more, which actually, that was probably the most surprising number out of anything. That's a pretty consistent number to find. Does anything out of this surprise you guys? Out of curiosity? No? Does it seem pretty standard to what you think your clientele is? Oh, all right. That's good. That's good. I'm happy to hear that. So here's how that actually looks. Again, you have quite a lot that land in this 100 grand or more, which that's going to come up again. But it does sort of raise a couple questions that we had thought about, which is, who are your target audiences? And to think about how you sort of broaden that out over time. But it was an interesting thought. And again, your age issue, that your crowds are historically higher than what you would see across most theaters, right? Okay, so this is the charts for attendance, just to give you an idea of what that actually looks like. Again, almost half have been here since you guys have opened, or have been coming since you guys have opened. So overall reactions, we had we asked people like on a 5-star, like you would if you were giving a review for a movie, how would you review you guys? And probably not very surprising to you guys. You guys did really, really well. Like 4.73 out of 5 is pretty darn amazing. And this doesn't actually significantly change whether people were actually members of the theater or not members of the theater. So yeah, there you go. You guys are doing a bang up job and people love you. They really, really love you. All right, so we asked them what do they love about you guys, and so we put together this little word cloud of stuff that people said. The larger the word, the more often they said it. So not surprisingly, comfortable came up a lot. Thought-provoking, fun, unique, local, intimate, friendly, although the intimate thing will come up. There's some issues about this room, apparently. Oh, is that not a surprise? Classy, it's a gem. We keep hearing it's a gem. I don't know why it's a gem.
A local gem, yeah.
It's a local gem. It's a local gem. So yeah, if you guys are doing some advertising, think about gem.
But I think that, I think this really speaks to the theater. I mean, when I think about it personally, what we asked in the survey, the way we had asked it in the survey was, give us 2 or 3 words. Was it two words? Was it two words? 2 words. 2 words that describe Red River to you. And this is kind of a count of that. And the most popular answer was comfortable. People feel very comfortable in here. The other most popular is unique. In comparison to other theaters, a lot of talk about that, and thought-provoking. So you're going to start to see these kinds of themes come up. So the other thing I wanted to say about the survey is our survey questions. Some were numeric, we asked folks to rate things, and other questions like this one, we asked them to provide more narrative, more words. So we're going to intersperse that here because that's the richness of the 2 pieces. We've got the numbers, and then we've got people telling us why they gave those numbers, so the words. So congratulations, because I think this is an awesome you know, sort of ambiance that Red River creates for folks.
Your board was super excited to see this. Yeah, like super, super excited. And this is some of the feedback. You want to address this?
Yeah, I mean, I guess that these are just, you know, comments that people made. You know, we saw everything from the quality of the films, we like what's showing here. We heard a lot of responses about Red River contributes to the local community, that gem concept. It's a local gem, it's a treasure to this community. Social occasion, people felt very comfortable coming with others or by themselves. Always feel welcome, plenty of folks I know, real community. So those are a lot of the really positive themes, and most of the themes were really positive. We had very negative or room for improvement kind of comments. But these are some of the themes that came up for people.
I would also say the whole thing about a wonderful social occasion, this is something that actually was a bit of a discussion that we had even before the survey went out, was to think about how people might be coming here for a whole night out, right? So you don't just come here, you might go out to dinner. What are you doing in the local economy? How does that work? So another level of this survey, taking it to its next stop, would be to possibly go out and check and see how many other businesses believe that this theater is actually helpful to them as well, right? Because that starts to make not just your social argument, but it makes your economic argument, which is really powerful as well. Which is great if you're trying to either fundraise or you're trying to sort of talk about your value in the community. Those kinds of things tied together make a lot of sense. But this reinforced what we thought, which was that people really did see it as a social event. I go out to the movies, then I go out to dinner, I hang out with my friends, we go to the pub and we talk, whatever the case may be. So like this whole idea of it being part of that whole social network idea, it was actually reinforced through this survey, so that was kind of exciting. Yeah, so to reinforce, Concord is lucky to have you guys. You're a cultural resource, a community treasure, like that gem just keeps coming up. Other people want it in their towns. That was the funny one. How do you replicate? How do you guys make another version of you somewhere else?
Lots of demand for that.
Yeah, lots of demand
up in the
for
Lakes
that.
region, down in Manchester, over in
They
Keene.
think they're getting it.
They like that you're not a chain theater. They like that you're wide, that you have a wide variety, that you're thought-provoking. So honestly, I mean, none of this should be too much of a surprise to you, but it was kind of nice to sort of see it in print, right? And when we say, you know, this is, while these are sort of direct quotes, it's kind of important to remember that these were repeated over and over again, maybe in different words, but pretty much the same sentiment over and over again, which was great. People like the panels, the movie themes especially. Rocky Horror gets a big one, gets a big shout out. The sing-alongs get one. And people like the atmosphere, intimate, with the exception of this room, which we will come back to again. There's intimate and then there's too intimate. So yeah, we'll talk about that. So we asked folks what were their genre preferences. If you're wondering where the list came from, and if you want to see the full list, it's in the original survey. The list was actually taken from the AFI. Right, so the American Film Institute has an entire list of what is actually determined to be a genre and what is determined to be a subgenre. So we asked on all of them. So drama, comedy, and documentary, pretty much universally across the board. Didn't change when we asked by age, and didn't change when we asked by socioeconomic status. Pretty much the same across the board. The only difference was the difference between epics and biopics. That one probably moved up as people aged, so as they were a little bit older, that one kind of flipped between 3 and 4. But that's pretty much it. The ones folks had the lowest interest in, the bottom 4 pretty much came up universally, regardless of age. Sports and disasters sort of flipped a couple times, but you can see it's only 10-11% wanted it, so that's probably not too surprising. Foreign films were not on this list. However, partially because foreign films are not their own genre, they fall under a genre. You will have a foreign drama, you might have a foreign comedy, you might have foreign whatever. So they don't actually have their own genre in here, at least not according to AFI. So, but it is important to note that they were mentioned quite frequently in the open-ended comments, so heads up on that one. Folks do see it as a genre, even though it's not technically a genre. Does that make sense? Yeah. So, despite the fact that one of my favorite movie groups to talk about are zombie movies, because they really do highlight socioeconomic and political issues that are going on in our day, people apparently don't like that. I don't know what's up with that.
I'm just wondering, I don't really remember the survey, but was this question for movies in general that we show? Like first run films and events?
No, it was for what would you like to see here? What would you like to see more of here? What would you like to see here? What are the
Okay,
genres
so
that
it
would
was
bring you out?
moving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was like covering both.
Yeah,
Movies
yeah.
you're most interested in.
What are you most interested to come? What would most bring you in the door? Yeah,
And people could choose as many as they wanted.
yeah. There was no limit, which still makes me cry about zombies. All right, but that's okay. What you gonna do? And horror. Hello again. Major political, socioeconomic issues are covered in horror. It's crazy to me that nobody wants to talk about that. But whatever. Okay. Sorry.
Look at the demographic who responds.
Yeah, that's right.
It's still, I mean, do you realize we could do like a whole, I've done it, do a 2.5-hour class on just Get Out. Like you could talk about that from like, I can't even, okay, sorry. You could, so I teach in a couple of universities and so it's just, it drives me nuts when people don't want to talk about those two things. I don't know, it's a crazy thing to me. So let's talk about this. All right, so we asked folks about how meaningful the experience of being at Red River Theater is for them. And so what we did was we gave them sort of a 4-point scale and we asked them to measure certain things. So this is from the top to the bottom. It's most enjoyable, they find it worthwhile, and they find it highly thought-provoking. Pretty much standard, right? That's a lot of what we also saw in that Wordle when people kind of said what they felt about the theater. The bottom 3, it helps me understand other people, makes me feel connected to my community, and encourages me to be more creative, fell to the bottom. Although, I think it's worth saying, not by much, right? We're talking, 70% and above. So still pretty good. However, if we go back to your mission, and part of your mission is to sort of help people understand things better, then there's a question about how do we connect this to how people interact in their real world. It's one thing to have a very thought-provoking moment in like a theater setting, but then how do you take that with you back out into the real world? How do you actually apply that or use it in any meaningful way? Anything here surprising to anybody? No. The events that people like most, and
So this
which
is,
ones they find to be the best quality.
Yeah, whether they rated from low to high.
Right.
Low is I don't like it. 5 is highest. I really like it. So these are only the people who attended these things, right? So the Bring Your Own Baby had many fewer people sort of rate it because many fewer people attend the Bring Your Own Baby series.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just one kind of thing you need to understand. It's not like somebody who doesn't go to it rated it.
Although weirdly, Oscar night, I think almost had 100% of the people who go to Oscar night were also the people who responded to your survey. Because I think the attendance number was super close to the number who responded to it. It was some crazy number. So it was pretty high. And for a lot of folks, the film festivals, the panel discussion, the films were also very, very high. So, and again, ratings were, on this case, were a scale of 1 to 5. Any thoughts on this? Other than everybody's enviously looking at the guy who was brave enough to get it.
You'd be the first.
All right, we also then asked folks to scale things. Basically what we did is we made like a sliding scale. And we said, think about your experience here at the theater. From I feel like I don't learn anything new to my eyes are open to some new ideas. And so what we did was we put these two diametric ideas on a sliding scale and we asked people to slide across it. So this was some of the feedback. Most folks feel that they get some new ideas here. Most folks feel that they're sort of pushed out of their comfort zone. They're challenged and sort of provoked.